Welcome into Beyond the Press Box. I'm Yash with my co-host and analyst, Zach Kyleman, Codey Emerson, and Will Hatzel. Get ready to hear great discussions and debates on the biggest storylines in sports. We cover topics ranging from the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, college football, and college basketball. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the roundtable discussion between four friends who are passionate sports fans. Before we begin the show, we want to let you know through our partnership with the Unhinged Sports Network, we've partnered with Fubotv. What is Fubotv, you may ask? Fubotv brings you 100 plus channels, including ABC, CBS, ESPN, NBC, and many more without the hassle of a cable contract. Don't believe me? Hit the link in our social media bios and start your 7-day free trial today. So, guys, this weekend, the Sweet 16 took place and had some outstanding games from the Sweet 16. I was watching specifically also yesterday the Alabama UCLA game, phenomenal game that went into overtime. The Bruins ended up winning. But what were your overall thoughts? I just want to get your overall thoughts on the weekend as a whole.
Well, I'm going to say it, man. The number one seeds coming out to play. Illinois was a bit of a slouch, but Michigan stepped up to the plate to kind of keep up with Baylor and Gonzaga in showing why they were deserving their number one statuses. Now, credit Gonzaga out of all those definitely looks like the team to beat right now. They have just been smothering. They pretty much annihilated Creighton for all intents and purposes this past week, and they're looking scary. Same goes for the Pac-12. Talk about a conference of underdogs right now. Whether it's USC, whether it is, of course, UCLA with an excellent OT win over Alabama, or you look back at Oregon State continuing to smother on the defensive end. They have been so dominant this tournament. Again, just beyond impressive what they have been doing to teams so far in this tournament. And, right now, as we're talking, they're taking on another defensive juggernaut, if you will, in Houston as that's kicking off. Looking forward to seeing who comes out of the contest. I still hold, even though it's midway or starting out in that game, I'm still holding that, Oregon State has that chance to go to the Final Four. Like I was talking, whoever comes out of Loyola, Chicago, Oregon State would be my Final Four choice. So I'm still holding that they'll come out of it. I know Houston's a tough matchup, more experienced team, better scoring team, even though they are more defensively prowess than on the offensive side, but they have the firepower and of course the experience to do so. If anything, I would say with the Sweet 16 matchups you saw, Baylor was the one I think that looked slightly exposed, or at least was having an off night. I thought Villanova would be able to pull off the upset there, but they were able to stay in it overall. But Arkansas against Oral Roberts was the one too that I think I'll stick the most with saying, man, Oral Roberts, you just ran out of gas. That was the only thing. And honestly, they had it for most of this contest. Arkansas was just getting scrappy at the end. It really was a shame they couldn't move on. I get it. Better team won at the very end. The one that was more determined, and the one that was getting the most opportunities as well. I keyed in last week as well. Oral Roberts, one thing they are not great with, they'll get their shots, but if they don't get their second chance points, it's going to hurt them. And eventually down the stretch, that started hurting them with Arkansas being able to out rebound them and consistently able to get more shots up as they could. So, it's a shame the Golden Eagles don't get to move on. But that made arguably the best game, if not for UCLA against Alabama over the Sweet 16 matches. But overall, I'm pretty impressed. I have loved the tournament so far. I don't know if it's just that if it's just from missing it last year, I have that bit more extra added onto it. But as the rounds have gone on, I've been saying it's a pretty good tournament overall. I'll hold by those words.
Will, Codey, your thoughts on the Sweet 16 matchups over the weekend?
Well, I will say that I'm actually going to say exactly what Zach said, but there were a couple of teams that essentially just ran out of gas, and that was Loyola. That was another. It was a little bit closer, but they just offensively they kind of just seemed to lose that touch, that edge that they played the last couple of rounds with. Oral Roberts. Again, sometimes it comes down to you get to the end and you run out of time essentially. You could be down just a couple of points, but sometimes it just takes the one possession or two more, but you don't always get that, unfortunately. I will say Baylor did take care of Villanova probably a little bit easier than I would have thought. I thought Nova would have kept it a little bit closer. It still was a good game. I mean, because last week I was hyping up on the last show that I really thought that was going to be probably one of the most exciting matches of this round to pay attention to. I mean, Gonzaga, took care of business too, but I was a little bit disappointed with Florida State. And we've talked about this too. A lot of people have thought that, Michigan would be one of those teams that would get upset, and they've been really solid in this tournament. And Florida State has been pretty good too. I mean, one of the better offensive performances we've seen from teams in this tournament. And then all of a sudden they just fall flat against Michigan. That the UCLA Alabama game, probably the most thrilling one, obviously. I can't believe Alabama goes into OT though and just lets up all those points and to lose by that deficit. Like, I would have had no idea that went to OT, and how everything transpired there in the last essentially minute, 30 seconds, 5 seconds, 3 seconds of that game. That was amazing to get them into OT. And Syracuse too. I mean, these scores, guys, like Houston beat Syracuse 62-46, Michigan over Florida State 76-58. Like, man, a lot of these games, you would think this deep into the tournament, we would see just really close games. We're seeing some of these top teams that have really performed well over the first couple of rounds that just all of a sudden they just had an off day. But I think that's the thing about a tournament like this, that you have to be on your A game, because it doesn't matter if you're the favorite over a Cinderella, or if you're the Cinderella that's been on a hot streak. You don't come to play and you're cold, your shot's cold, then you're in some trouble. So I would say, as much as maybe this last round was a little bit disappointing with how the games panned out, I am still excited to see some lower seeds, continue to make it far. I mean, Oral Roberts, that would have been cool, because I think they were really the last true like Cinderella team. I mean, Oregon State, yeah, and UCLA being 11 and a 12 seed, we could call them underdogs still, but I think the true Cinderella story it has to be Oral Roberts. But this year has been different. Like we've talked about, how it's not a lot of teams you recognize, but I think that's been pretty cool. So really, this has been a very crazy tournament, and it full of ups and downs. And again, I just kind of wish some of these games in this round were a little bit closer, but I'm still okay with the results, and a lot of them were still a lot of fun. So I can't complain about that.
Well, hey, man, you're talking one thing. If you're out of gas, you're out of gas. That's kind of what I'm getting from all this.
You got to push the car down the road. The coaches like Porter Moser, he can only do so much when you're missing shots and you're not on. I mean, we saw teams like, what was I think it was Colorado State in the first round. I watched that game almost the entire game from start to finish, and every time I look at the TV, another three there, the commentators just screaming three. I'm like, holy crap! So
when I saw that, I thought of the Mike Breen bang three.
Yes,
just bang.
You would have heard that probably 30 times if he was calling that game, because
I know
that's just how great that 3-point offense was. But you know what, that's just exactly how it goes. So but this time it was a little bit more lackluster offensive performances, but still happy with how the tournament's going.
And Max, actually for Oral Roberts, Max Absmith, I think is how you pronounce that name.
Something like that.
Yeah, played all 245 minutes of, like, from the conference tournament through the NCAA tournament, played every minute of every game. So, that's phenomenal run for him. And, speaking of Loyola Chicago, I mean, they came up short. Cameron Krutwig being their anchor. Looking forward to his NBA career now as he'll transition into the NBA, see how he'll perform out there. But yeah, like you said, I would have loved to seen some more closer games. Oral Roberts, like we've been talking about, came up a bucket short against Arkansas. Could have been playing Baylor tonight had that happened, but that number one seed. But it's again. But overall, like I said, I've enjoyed the tournament. Enjoyed watching, getting to watch some quality college basketball. And now, I mean, I think this is the first time I can't remember if it's the first time that they've had it where they've played the Elite Eight on Monday and Tuesday following, because it's usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is how the tournament works out throughout their rounds. But I think this is the first time that they've had it. We're going Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So we're getting a double dose of games today and tomorrow. So,
I kind of like that though.
Yeah.
I think it builds more suspense for the Final Four.
Yeah.
In that way, you're not rushing into the Final Four. You're giving it more of the week to develop and grow kind of the tension and hype for these games. So maybe it's a nice little surprise.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, well, they have right now you have Oregon State and Houston playing. Houston's up 28-17 in that game at the present moment. So we'll have to see these. Oregon State's kind of that's the lowest seed now, being the 12th seed. So they've been on a hot streak since the beginning of the tournament, since they broke my heart and beat my Vols, at the start of the tournament. But
Southern defense, man.
Yeah, I know. And they, it's just been they've just been playing solid. Hopefully they're able to. I always like to see an upset, so hopefully they're able to eke out a win here against the Cougars of Houston. But overall, I think it's been a fun tournament to watch. And like I said, that game last night, I was watching the UCLA Alabama game. That was phenomenal. Phenomenal game to watch. That buzzer beater at the end of regulation. Ooh, that was great little pass by Herbert Jones. I mean, and a great shot there for Alabama. But unfortunately, in overtime, Mick Cronin. I remember Mick Cronin from when I used to live in Cincinnati. He used to be the head coach for the Bearcats in the American Athletic, and then so now he's over there at UCLA. They become the first. I bring out fun facts. I haven't brung out fun facts in the last couple of weeks, but they become the first four team since VCU in 2011 to make it to the Elite Eight, and VCU made it to the Final Four that year. So there's in 2011. So there's a good chance. History is on the side of Mick Cronin and the Bruins. So we'll see. Maybe they can advance past that Elite Eight stage. They play Gonzaga. Gonzaga's they've got some good weapons with them. I mean, with their one of their main guys, Codey Kispert, really been balling this March. So looking forward to seeing that matchup tomorrow when this Elite Eight action continues. But overall, fun tournament, and I've enjoyed it. But Cody, what are your thoughts on this March Madness and the Sweet 16 rounds overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's you talk about UCLA being in that first four, and then I was chatting with my boss because he actually got to experience the tournament. He does been talking with you guys. He does PA for Butler, so he got to do PA for some of these tournament games. And I was talking with him about what he's been seeing and everything, and he's telling UCLA just plays loose. They play loose. They play hard. I mean, and they just have fun. They look like they're having fun out there. And he's gotten to see them, I think, a few times. So that's been I guess if I had to latch on to, I mean, there's only 8 teams left. But if I were to latch on to a team at this point, I guess I'd probably go with UCLA, just because they're a blue blood. When you think of blue bloods, you obviously the Dukes, the Kentuckys, the Carolinas, you don't think about UCLA, but they really are. They have the most national championships. Obviously, they have a storied history. Just ask Bill Walton. He'll talk your head off on Pac-12 history. And he can tell you all about UCLA. But I just love watching them play. When Johnny Juzang, or how you pronounce his last name, fouled out, like late in that game, I was like, what's going to go on here? But they turned it up in overtime, and that's what you see sometimes in this tournament, and whether it be the NBA, whether it be any sport, some teams just have another level in overtime. And UCLA was able to turn it up and beat Alabama. And so that was my game of the weekend. Obviously, I think that was a lot of people's. You look at the other ones. Creighton competed for a little bit, like the first half, like the first 10 minutes with Gonzaga. But I mean, Gonzaga is just too dang good. I've been a Gonzaga hater a little bit. They've made it this far. They actually made the championship game. So we're going to see. This is where the pressure's on Mark Few and Gonzaga to win. And if they don't, I mean, we'll see what happens. Because, they're going to have that chip on their shoulder of, can they win the big one? And they're looking like that Gonzaga USC game. We're recording on a Monday, but it'll already have happened when this episode airs. But the game is on Tuesday. I am looking so forward to that game. That is going to be up tempo, high octane offense, and I think that's going to be a fun game to watch. I mean, Zach, you brought up the Pac-12. I'd like to send out an apology to the Pac-12 because I know when we were originally breaking this tournament down, I was not a fan of the Pac-12. I didn't think SC would get this far. I didn't think Oregon would get this far. I sure as hell didn't think Oregon State was going to get this far. And so I owe the Pac-12 an apology. Oral Roberts was so close, but Zach, you mentioned it. They just kind of ran out of gas at the very end there. Although that last shot, oh my goodness, was inches away from going in. That was a beautiful out of bounds play that they ran. And Max Abe Smith, I know we're trying to figure out how to pronounce his last name, but we almost had the moment. We were waiting for a buzzer beater. Granted, we got it in the Alabama game, but we haven't had a game winner yet. That's the one thing I'm missing, is we haven't had a game winning shot. And oh my gosh, it came so close. But I'm looking forward to, like I said, we're recording this on a Monday, games tonight and on Tuesday. And, we're going to have Final Fours to talk about potentially. People who are going chalk are looking pretty smart, picking 1 seeds. But the pressure's on those 1 seeds. Obviously, Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan is still in there repping the Big Ten. I don't know how to feel about that being an Ohio State fan, but I guess I don't know. Like I said, I really don't know how to feel about it.
Just gotta get it out.
I love that the Big Ten's still being represented, but of course it has to be Michigan. But
I know you said you'd give them a break. I know you said football.
Football. I'm more. I mean, football. Come football time, I won't give them much love. But hoping they can. I mean, they got a tough test. I mean, UCLA, like I said, they're going to be playing loose. So Michigan, great team, but can't take anything for granted. And Juwan Howard, what a story it would be if in his first year he guides this team to a Final Four. I mean, I like the hiring, but I didn't think it'd be this good of a hiring. I didn't think Michigan would be this good of a Final Four team. They're looking to go back to the Final Four again. So that'd be a great story, but we got some great games to look forward to. And the close games the lack of, I know we're going to get into that in just a second. They don't bother me too much. And we've just seen some great basketball by some great teams. And so that's kind of what's led to, those lopsided scores, but still a fun Sweet 16. And we got some Elite 8 games to look forward to and some Final Fours. And then here before long, we're going to crown a national champion, and which is not something I thought, most people thought possible, just probably a handful of months ago.
Yeah, it's it's been a heck of a tournament. From the beginning, from when they planned it to bring all 68 teams to Indianapolis, to all the different arenas and the challenges they've had to go through. Ball State being a host, I know we talked about this. They haven't really nothing was held on Ball State's campus, but they were picked to be a host for some of these games. So
was it at Hinkle that had the logo?
Yes.
That had our
Hinkle.
Cardinal logo on there.
Yeah,
you can see in the top right corner of your TV screen.
Yeah, little chirp, Ball State Cardinal.
That's what I thought. I was just like, there we go.
There's our little proof of Ball State being a part of this.
Yeah. But we touched on the UCLA game from yesterday, but what really brings it back full circle is in Indianapolis between I think Georgia and Meridian Street. They have by Hinkle. They have a John Wooden. I think they have a little street or a little memento for John Wooden out there, and so that brings it full circle. Wooden being the former famed head coach of the UCLA Bruins, the fact that they were able to win close to his where he's being honored in Indianapolis. That's that's kind of what brings that full circle for the Bruins there overall. But
I can tell you, by the way, the city loves that they got this. It's just the rep where I live. It's very much been I'd say a massive success. People love that they got this chance to host the tournament, and they have taken it in stride. And anywhere you go, you drive around the highways, they got March Madness signs. You go downtown, Georgia Street is usually that party street where they do Super Bowls or even March Madness in the past.
Yeah,
it's popping. People love it. It's been a great tournament for the sake of the city being a host.
And I really love that, because I know in Indiana in 2021 was scheduled to host a series of events, including the Final Four, the All-Star Game, a whole host of events. So it's really nice to see Indianapolis pop in, like you said, for the tournament, and they're able to host the entire tournament overall, not just the Final Four itself. So that's really, really fun to see. Being up there for 4 years, being up in Indiana, man, you've been in Indianapolis a couple times. Really love the city, the Circle City, as they call it, up there, I believe. So yeah,
yes,
it's
yes. You got it right.
Yeah, I got it. I was gonna say, I was like,
insult the people of Indianapolis.
I'm sorry.
You passed the one question quiz. Congratulations.
I took
Josh.
a wild guess there. But no, like I said, really, really happy for Indianapolis and the state of Indiana for being able to host this great tournament. But Codey, you alluded to it earlier that the lack of close games don't bother you, but there have been some people who have called this tournament with the amount of blowouts that have occurred. They've called this tournament, not really that exciting. There's because of COVID now, you don't have that many fans. It looks like some people have said it just looks like a scrimmage. So what do you make of the thoughts on those comments that people have made? Have you found the tournament to be, not boring per se, but not that exciting, or are you still, were you still excited about the tournament?
I understand where some people are coming from. I mean, you look at these Sweet 16 games and you see a final score 83-65, 82-68, 76-58. The UCLA won by 10 points, and that game went into overtime. Yeah, look, I understand. And then the Syracuse-Houston game wasn't close. Loyola, Oregon State was, I'd say, pretty close. Only a 7-point game. And then Baylor won by double digits. So a lot of these games are being decided by double digits. And look, I think people have compared. We've gotten blessed, in previous years with lots of down to the wire games, buzzer beaters, you name it. We've gotten, like I said, blessed with that great level of basketball. So now that I think that people are kind of expecting that, and they shouldn't really be expecting that level of play. I mean, an 11-point game. I mean, Villanova was in that game versus Baylor for the most part. Then Arkansas, Oral Roberts. I mean, Oral Roberts is a 15 seed that knocked off my Ohio State Buckeyes, and they were able to make a Sweet 16 run. I mean, you look at the double-digit seeds: Oregon State, Oral Roberts, UCLA, all 11, 12, and 15 seeds making a run. Let's enjoy that part of it. You know, the games themselves, I'm not going to accredit to, quote, being boring. I mean, Gonzaga's just a damn good team. I mean, they're a high-powered offense, and most teams aren't going to be able to match that. And this, like I said, the Gonzaga this is their best team they've had in a while, and it's a lot of pressures on them to win. So I'm not going to call it boring per se. I'm just going to give credit to the teams who are winning by blowouts, because they're just playing their style of basketball. I mean, and you can't really fault them for it. But no, some people are saying, oh my gosh, these games aren't even entertaining. Yeah, the fans, it's not jam-packed arena. So like when you get a massive dunk or you get a massive block, or heck, even a game that, oh my God, can you imagine that shot? From the Alabama UCLA game, if it was a full arena, I mean, it would have been outstanding. But you know what? We're still getting to have a tournament, which we didn't have last year. So that's one thing. And also, just enjoy it. Enjoy some of these stories that are coming out. Enjoy the great play by the great teams. Like prime example, like I keep bringing up, Gonzaga. So it's not, like I said, not boring, but just because you don't have the close games doesn't mean it hasn't been an exciting tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's been still a lot of fun. I mean, look, I'm never going to shed tears for Duke or Kentucky or, some of these big name teams that don't make it one year. I understand if you're a fan, you're disappointed. I also understand that, yeah, you want the big name schools. I mean, can we imagine a year even in like college football with no Alabama like existing or being in like the college football playoff? I mean, I know some of us would probably
wouldn't
like
mind that at all.
Yeah, exactly. Some of us here probably wouldn't mind that, especially for the sake of more success for our teams, but also
yelling the loudest about that,
or for the sake of just changing it up. Yes. So, but still, I mean, it would be kind of weird, and you would lose some of the excitement and the hype if it's. Nobody wants my Northwestern Wildcats to be in the college football playoff. Me and maybe the Northwestern fans, but the point is, like, you know what? It's a 64 team tournament. Okay. At some point, there's going to be an upset, like an Oral Roberts beating Ohio State. That type of matchup, that type of result is going to happen eventually. I will say, I guess maybe I am a little bit disappointed that some of these games have been bigger blowouts. Like, like Loyola stomping on Illinois was disappointing. I just mentioned how it's like Florida State. It's like they had no chance against Michigan. It's games like that. Even Oregon kind of coming up short against USC. Like it, I always expect these games to be decided by like 4 or 5 points, and that hasn't really been the case. But other than that, it's still been as fun as it usually is. And I thought Indy's done a tremendous job. I actually was in Indy 2 weekends ago when the round of 64 started. I was visiting some people and didn't go to any of the games. I didn't go to any like super crowded big name places, but I checked out a couple of breweries and was shown around of a couple of places to go check out. And, everybody's there watching the games. It was beautiful. Like, I think that Sunday it was like in the 60s. So everybody had brought their dogs out. So here we all are, pen dogs, and just seeing all these cute puppies running around. So I mean, in terms of the atmosphere in Indy, if you were there, whether you went to a game or two, or you just went to, or like, some of you guys are residents in or near the area of Indianapolis, well, it looked like a pretty damn good time. And I even enjoyed myself for just being there and kind of feeling that basketball vibe, around there. So yeah, we didn't have crowded arenas. You didn't get all the fans and the crying Northwestern kid fans, in years past. But I mean, it was cool that at least I know they were showing a lot of the players, their parents in the stands taking pictures and videos and stuff. That was cool. At least I think if anything, the people that got priority to go, like family and friends, people connected to these teams and these schools, I'm okay with that. Again, maybe the results haven't been the greatest in terms of the way the games have panned out. But you got a taste of a couple of upsets. You got a taste of a couple of lower seeds making it far. I mean, you still do. I mean, you still have an 11 seed and a 12 seed. I'm a little bit worried about Oregon State right now. Halftime, they're down, I think 17 points. So a little shaky start for them. That could be another one of those blowout games. But all in all, I think it's been an impressive tournament. And I think it was Cody, you said, we had a tournament. Okay. The world, we're starting to get back to being normal. And I just signed up to get my vaccine before coming on the show today. All good things are starting to line up. Let's enjoy the tournament, even if boo-hoo, the Duke didn't make it this year. Okay. I think we're going to be okay. We'll survive with that. So no, I think the tournament has been fantastic. There's no complaints about it here from me.
My thing is, what are you complaining about if you're a fan?
No.
That's my first thing. Okay.
Exactly.
Why are you even complaining?
You
didn't get one last year.
As I hit my mic, the teams change every year anyways. I'm getting fired up over here and I'm going to smash this desk.
Well, hey, I would be the same way. I can smack it. So there, I smack my mic. We'll equal it out. But now,
we'll call it even.
I'm just saying, look, what the hell are you complaining about the tournament? Woe is me. The scores are blown out. You didn't have a tournament last year. Sit down and shut the hell up. This
time last year sucked, guys. Remember, everything shut down. The NBA. I mean, we were disappointed too. We thought Ball State was going to have a heck of a great chance in the MAC tournament. The conference tournaments before that got shut down. Hours before games starting, essentially. So I mean, you kind of got to soak in what we have this year, because literally almost the entire year last year we didn't have anything. Baseball, everything got canceled. We're just in such a better state right now that it's awesome. And yeah, I think Indy definitely deserved to get that, because we know Indiana's a basketball state and they missed out on some other events and opportunities that were supposed to go their way. Again, COVID ruining a bunch of crap last year. But no, no complaints here.
Well, yeah, I that's the thing that kills me. Someone somewhere will always find something to complain about. You didn't have a tournament last year and you're still going to complain. We're having games now and going, woe is me, blowouts. Woe is me, there's no fans in the stands. Well, we've been doing this for a year, guys. What the hell are you talking about? Of course, there's going to be limited fans in the stands. You should have seen this one coming. If that was the problem with the tournament, that was it. It's just about fans. It's not about the storylines of an Oral Roberts making it and being that small school that's busting up these bigger schools. It's not about Loyola Chicago being a sweetheart. It's not about the Pac-12, who looks like an underdog and should have been laying down in the mud after the first round, making it to the Elite Eight, 3 teams. I mean, come on. The blowouts aren't everything, guys. You can find anyone to hate something on anything, and personally, the March Madness tournament is my favorite college anything. It's my favorite college event every year. It easily, and I'm a football guy. I love football overall. It's my favorite sport. But I will never say that college football is better than college basketball. I think college basketball is better than college football. And that's for just the competitiveness and for the storylines in general. So, if you're complaining about this year, come on, man, get something else to talk about. Blowouts, give me a break, man. You didn't have a tournament last year to even compare it to. Seriously, you're complaining from 2 years ago. No wonder.
I'll jump in, bro. I'm not agreeing with these people making these points.
It's fine. It's fine.
But they're
wrong,
saying,
Cody.
Yeah. But
you're one of those.
They're saying, I've heard some people saying there's not that, obviously, I think it was 3 years ago, where we had Zion. Obviously, you could put a face to a tournament. You could put a face to a team. Gonzaga, as great as they are, and as great as they are, there's not that one guy is must see TV. It's not like I'm going to turn on the TV and watch this guy. Personally, that guy in this tournament for me was Cade Cunningham, who his team unfortunately got knocked out, so we didn't get to see it. But So that's kind of where the people are going with, I think, is
Okay.
it's not must see. It's like, yeah, you'll pay attention to it, but I'm not going to be 100% glued to my TV and as they were in years past.
Well, see, this is interesting.
That's some of the arguments that I think I'm hearing.
Yeah, see, this is interesting though. You bring that because now I'm wondering, like, do we have people quiet down if Luka Garza makes it to the Elite Eight with Iowa? You know, the
Probably
himself, the one that's supposed to be the best guy going out in the draft this year. You know, just saying. You know, but I understand Iowa.
No, that's a good point. I mean, honestly, how many? And again, I'm sure there's like definitely
Kofi
probably
Coburn
some
over with Illinois.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
even Illinois, if Illinois went farther, or even Loyola again, in terms of everybody loves Sister Jean, everybody loves Porter Moser, everybody loves some of the players.
Yeah.
I think probably and this happens in every sport and really with any event or situation, even outside of sports. I mean, if the most popular people or teams or things, whatever, objects, things, whatever, are out of the equation, you tend to lose people. It happens. Everything is a popularity contest if you truly think about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, it's
fair enough. I get that point. I will hold by though that for people not having basketball last year, there sure is a lot of complaining going on.
We're in a better
I'm in
we're in a better
100%
place.
agreement with you, Zach.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's so many schools and storylines and players that you can't really
and
follow them all. And I think most people are like, I'll say me for an example, because I don't really care that much for college basketball or pay attention to it that much during the season, but in postseason, when it comes to conference tournaments, and then of course, the March Madness here, that's when I pay the most attention. So I'll be honest with you, I had to do some digging and some research when we first started prepping, 2 weeks ago, when we were making brackets and preparing for, discussion and coverage of March Madness on this podcast. Like, you think I knew everything about Villanova and definitely nothing about Oral Roberts. I never even did any research on them. So they basically informed us with their first round win. But
yeah.
I mean, I think the majority of people are like me, where they're casual fans. So they pay attention when it's happening, regardless of who it is.
And Zach,
what was me? No Kentucky. What was me? No Duke.
It's,
North Carolina gets eliminated first round. This tournament stinks. There's no big names.
you still have Michigan up there. So
yep. Thank God.
But still,
thank God.
But
I'll say the problem with them is I'd say if you probably had to give a face of Michigan, it's either Hunter Dickinson, their center, or Isaiah Livers, who was the point guard, who is missing the tournament because he fractured his foot. But you could probably, I'd say from Michigan, you're probably looking at Juwan Howard as the story more than the team players, because they don't have I obviously know because I keep tabs on the Big Ten and I know a lot of their players, but to the casual fan, if you pointed out and said, name that player, they probably wouldn't be able to. So, but you could probably point out Juwan Howard, I would hope, maybe.
Fab
if
Five.
You're a basketball fan.
Give him a little Fab Five hint, like, hey.
Coach or a long-time assistant on the Heat.
Yeah. But I do like the point you brought up there, Zach, between how you said you liked the March Madness is your favorite college event. It even outduels college football, and I think the biggest reasoning, and I partly agree with you, and the biggest reasoning is because when you have the NCAA tournament, you have these Cinderella runs that can challenge these bigger schools like an Oral Roberts, whereas this discussion for another day. I know we've had it in our football segment, is like with the college football playoff, there's only 4 teams. They get in. You don't really have that challenge from these smaller schools. But I think we just to have basketball this year, people should just be grateful. And you mentioned the storylines behind Loyola Chicago. Forgot to throw in my other fun fact there. Oregon State, their head coach Wayne Tinkle actually went to Loyola Chicago, and he prayed, apparently the story goes, he prayed, quote, harder than Sister Jean that they would beat them. in the Sweet 16, and
You're just
it's
catching up
exactly
on
what-
these facts today, aren't you?
yeah, I am. I guess today's the day with all the fun facts. But
Hmm.
so apparently his prayers worked a little harder than Sister Jean's in that game. But you know, uh, he's the Loyola Chicago connection there. He went to Loyola Chicago as a student, and was a Rambler there for a while. But again, another interesting. I mean, it's been an interesting tournament. Like I said, I agree with all of you. I don't think that all the hate, and Zach, you mentioned it too. There's always somebody that's going to find something to hate about something, and something's going good. Always find the detractors, but it's overall. I think what Indianapolis has done, and what these organizers have done, has been phenomenal. Even with the COVID testing, keeping these players healthy, we're able to see. I know we've only had. I think VCU was the only team that had major COVID issues in this tournament. So thankful for that too. We're able to get through, get past that, and continue the tournament and keep moving forward. But while the NCAA, I've also been actually, while I mentioned, I've also been following the NIT because the Memphis Tigers were in the NIT. They won the NIT. They beat Mississippi State 77-64 yesterday. So I've been following the NIT as well, back to back. So, congratulations to the Tigers.
Your Memphis Tigers,
Yeah, as well.
Shout out to
yeah.
Yash. We got a
Yeah,
champ in the
so-
house
Here we go,
today.
No, we
man.
got a
That's what I'm
little-
talking about.
Little champion, but that's just really. I know. Speaking of the detractors and the haters, Zach, there were a lot of people I remember last year that were saying when I was out there in Memphis, they're saying, "Oh, Penny Hardaway can't coach, he can't recruit," especially after the James Wiseman recruiting violation scandal and all that, and they were like, "Oh, he can't recruit, he can't coach," and now it's all validated for Penny Hardaway with that NIT win.
This is such a random thing, Yash, but so with with my occupation outside of this show, we were actually handling CBS Memphis WREG, and
Oh yeah,
he
I
is
know those
on
guys.
he's on King Cotton like hot dog and like lunch meat commercials.
Oh
So,
wow,
yeah, it's just like the most random thing, and I just go,
yeah,
"That's Yash's school, his head
Yeah.
coach. His name is Penny Hardaway."
Yeah.
Going,
I've only met
sausage.
Penny Hardaway once. He opened the door for me when I was going into the interview room. So
Wow.
I've only met
That's
Weird
more than all
flex, but
three of us
okay.
combined.
he's I could tell he's a true gentleman. He opened the door and let me in the door. So
Yash
Yash,
claim
I'll
to
tell you,
fame.
that's more times than all three of us combined. So,
yeah,
well, I don't mean to speak for all of us. I haven't met Penny Hardaway. I'd love to.
yeah.
It'd be cool.
He's
I don't even go anywhere for doors to be open for me. The pandemic has
Right?
essentially turned my country.
Turn your country.
Turned my country into it. I'm not going there.
It's Hatsland out there.
We're a sports podcast, people. I promise.
Oh man.
My company is
Ugh.
turned into a work from home, quite possibly forever situation. So I'm like,
Yeah.
the only door I ever leave is the backyard to go to the backyard. I don't go nowhere. When I get vaccinated, baby, I'm out. I'm going to town.
Get some exercises.
Well, I
doing,
did go to
doing
Indy 2
suicide
weeks ago,
drills.
so I
Yeah,
can't
man.
I can't lie there. But yeah, I have less Penny Hardaway opportunities for me compared to Yash.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, it was fun out there. I know we got a little sidetracked here talking about the NIT, but it was fun. It was fun out there. Covering the Memphis basketball and going to being. I mean, it was so different from not Schumann, excuse me, Worthen Arena, because they play their home games at FedEx Forum, which is the Grizzlies arena. So it was really interesting to be like on the baseline of an NBA arena shooting a game, filming a game. So really neat experience, fun experience, and Penny Hardaway's a cool guy, a real gentleman. Like I said, glad for him that he was able to get his team win the NIT. But you have March Madness, you have the NIT, but you also have different coaches now from these college basketball coaches such as Porter Moser being like offer linked to like pretty much every big time school for job offers, especially with he's won 3 Missouri Valley Conference titles in 4 years and led the Ramblers to a Final Four in 2018 and now a Sweet 16 berth in 2021. So, he's getting looked at. I know IU, they just hired New York Knicks assistant Mike Woodson to replace Archie Miller. And Codey, the connection there with Ohio State, I think former Ohio State head coach Thad Matta, he's the associate AD there at IU as well. So he'll be his associate AD. And, you have Shaka Smart, who abruptly left Texas to go to Marquette. Got hired by Marquette out there. So, but when you look at bringing it back to Loyola Chicago here, when you look at the rumors surrounding Porter Moser, he's publicly said he was like, I want to take the time to digest this loss with his team and kind of with the guys. But do you see Porter Moser leaving Loyola Chicago, or do you see him staying put, kind of like what Pat Fitzgerald did with Northwestern? He was listening to NFL offers, but at the end of the day, he came back to the Wildcat family.
I'm going to say that he stays because I know Marquette was a possibility for him. Cross that off the list. IU was speculated to go after him. Cross them off the list. I mean, that's 2 big schools right there. I'm sure there's more. I don't remember the entire list, but yeah, there's definitely more schools that would love to get their hands on him if they can or could. I look at Porter as a guy that's like Pat Fitzgerald. I think he hasn't finished what he started, and that's bringing a championship or bringing continued success to that program. In college athletics, you always lose players every year to the draft. People graduate. You got graduate transfers. I mean, every year your roster's changing. I mean, I'm sure it's quite challenging, especially for legit programs that have guys that go to the NBA every year. But what he has right now, that program he has, why leave? You have the special sidekick of Sister Jean. You are in Chicago, a huge market, even for a school like that. I mean, they're going to always get media attention. They're always going to get these opportunities. They're always going to be in the spotlight as a Chicago school and a Chicago team. That's
third biggest city in the country.
Exactly. I mean, they have more freaking success than some of the professional teams, but we're not going to go there. But I see him staying because I think a lot of the top suitors that he probably would have considered have already found other coaches, and I just have this sense that he's going to stay. I don't know if he's going to stay forever, but it really wouldn't surprise me if he sticks around again. Again, when you have a program set up like that where it's elite, you got a winning culture, you're well respected, you get the media attention. I think yes, being in Chicago, one of the biggest media markets in the country, definitely pays off. One of the biggest cities in the country in general. There's a lot to offer and entice recruits to come in. So I mean, I don't expect him not to. I expect him to get more really good recruits coming in. I mean, this is a team that should be able to sustain success, even though they're going to go through different players. So I'm going to say that he stays at least one more year. Shaka Smart I think he had to go because it's just a streak of really bad luck those couple of years where he's made the tournament and whatnot with Texas. So I don't know if Mike Woodson was necessarily the right hire for IU. The fact that these schools made these hires before even having a chance to have Porter Moser consider them kind of shocked me. And that's why I think maybe Porter stays, because a lot of schools are already moving on and finding coaches. So, and yeah, if he takes a week or two off to kind of rest and think about what he wants to do next, I mean, that's a lot of time, being taken up. These schools, these programs want to get started and they want to go after these. I'm sure there's other coaches that might get the nod or get looked at that have either gotten eliminated or will soon be eliminated as this tournament continues. So I'm going to say Porter stays, actually.
And that's a tough one. I think he will too. The most tantalizing job to me would have been, going to be the coach of the Hoosiers. Bring the guy to bring them back to prominence, back to their status as a top tier organization, or I almost said organization again, as a top tier college in NCAA. Look, I think though
They're essentially like work as an organization anyway.
I mean, I
so,
really am saying how it
yeah.
is, but I want to be politically correct here so that I don't have a college coming down on me, knocking on my door going, you do realize this isn't like professional, right? I'm going, oh, here we go. We're talking like that. But look, I don't think he leaves. I don't think he leaves the Chicago area, whether that is Loyola Chicago. There's talks that DePaul is a destination for him if he wanted to, kind of stay in the same market, move up to a better conference if you want. That's an option if you'd like, but honestly, I think Loyola Chicago is starting to get a presence as a consistently good school in the landscape of college basketball. I think that the name itself, even with Sister Jean being, an icon for the school, they're starting to get to the point where even with recruiting, they can go, hey, we've been to the the Sweet 16 now, like, 2 times out of the last 4 years, last 3 tournaments, if you will. But we have a program that's stable, and it's, even though it's a smaller one in the Missouri Valley still has some pretty good recognition. But I think just anything I've read about Moser is that he likes the school, he likes the city, he likes the culture of Loyola, and I kind of agree that I think he wants to bring more success. I could argue too that, and I've said a bit of this before, that, Moser right now kind of is hitting a bit of a Brad Stevens type of level where you're getting a small school that's getting elevated really well by its performances in the tournament, one that wasn't really successful in its years past. Butler was the same way really until Stevens showed up. Now Moser, it's kind of the similar deal, built up a bit more as a successful program there with Loyola. First tournament they made in 2018 was the first one since 1985. And now they've made 2 of the last 3 and are one of the best schools in the Missouri Valley, which, for a lower level conference is one of the best ones in the country too. So you got some tough schools to go against in the Missouri Valley anyway. So I think he stays with the challenge. And Chicago, like I said, if you wanted to stay in Chicago, you have DePaul there as a choice if you want to go right to a conference. That's an option. I think it's a dark horse thing you can think about, but I think if you got something going here, you got kids that like and are buying into your program, why not keep building it up? Maybe Loyola Chicago can move somewhere else and, like I said, be a Butler where eventually they go to a higher conference at some point if spot opens up. You never know.
That's what I was going to bring up too, is it's going to be interesting to see this, especially, to the success that they've had. If they get an offer to move, I don't know exactly, like, it's hard to say they're Power 5. It's hard to envision them moving into a Power 5, but do they go to, say, an A10 conference, the Atlantic 10? I know that was a topic of discussion. But in terms of Porter Moser, I think he stays too. I'll give you a $10 million reason why IU already was aggressive in their coaching search. Because for those who don't know, a booster / alumni / whatever the hell you want to call them nowadays, because there's so many names out there for them, paid IU, or was said, if you buy out Archie's contract, I will pay it. So someone paid IU $10 million to just for them to tell Archie bye-bye. And if I'm Archie Moore, say, you're paying me $10 million and I don't have to coach this team?
See ya.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I heard about that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to mention,
supposedly the boosters are real thrilled about this hiring too. So
Yeah.
definitely the politics of money
but
and boosters are definitely playing a role in IU.
Well, the boosters may be happy, but I'll tell you a group of people that aren't: the players. Guys, 6 players from IU have entered the transfer portal. And that's not including Trace Jackson Davis, who may say, you know what, screw this program, I'm going to the draft. So that IU could be looking at potentially 7 guys from this year's team that won't be on the team next year. Now, look, I know Mike Woodson is going to, I know I was reading a little bit of his press conference today, and he said that he's going to try and talk with them about, Indiana, this is the best state to play basketball on, or this is the best team to play on in the country. I'm like, not really. No, it's not.
That's,
mean,
What's the
good luck
interesting
with
story for that is actually I saw this earlier is they IU Woodson being a former Hoosier,
he played
for
there,
them. But they actually the other Ohio State connection there, Cody, and I'm interested to see how what you feel about this is they actually interviewed the rumor is they interviewed Chris Holtmann for that job to have him and Thad Matta.
I'll have a 5-letter response to that. LMFAO.
Why?
Yeah,
For those.
That's the rumor that I saw that was
because
all
I
floating
can't-
on CBS Sports that they said
that's not a rumor. That's a actual. Apparently they.
apparently they interviewed
why the
him.
hell they went after Holtmann?
Yeah,
I don't know, but
Isn't cream of the crop Big Ten anymore. You know, that's the thing with IU. You can't keep flailing around your
Well,
legacy like that.
my
Because it's not
thing was,
working,
and
obviously.
I laughed out. I seriously laughed out loud when I got that notification at work. And my boss turned over, he's like, "Are you okay?" And I told him what happened. And he basically we both had a nice little chuckle that, I mean, why the hell would Holtmann leave a program in shambles to when he already has one of the best programs in the Big Ten? But okay, I'm getting off on a rant about IU. I'll go back to Porter Moser.
no, you're good. Touching on all the coaches.
Can I throw this question here, and I'll let Cody answer it, because like seriously, I think that this needs to be answered though too. But why didn't IU wait until Porter makes a decision? Because if Porter comes out in a couple of days and says, "Oh, okay, I'll look at some jobs, at least get interviewed."
That's what I was kind of saying though, Will. If you get an alum, if you get a booster saying, they paid $10 million. So I'm guessing, and Zach, you kind of chuckled with all about how all this money impacts and boosters impact coaching and stuff. I guarantee you he probably may have had a favorite of who he wanted. And I don't know if that influenced the decision.
A big Mike Woodson supporter in the Booster Club, huh?
I guess. I don't know.
Man, when you have Porter Moser, who probably would have kept those 6 or 8 guys that want to leave now. I'm just saying. I think
but I'm gonna say, I think the longer you would have waited, the more pressure would have been on them. And you're like alumni, like we keep bringing up the boosters, they're gonna put pressure on you, saying we paid for you to get him out of here. We want to know who the heck you're going to bring in. So I get your point, and I would have waited a little bit. Well, actually, I would have kept Archie one more year. That's just me kind of. I wouldn't have.
That's a dangerous game, my friend.
Hey, well, you see the ramifications with the transfer portal. That's all I'm saying with that.
I mean,
that's true. But Miller did reach bum status, I would say, at this point.
I just think they rushed the hiring process. I think it was okay to move on for Miller.
Mike Woodson, 25 years, no college coaching experience, all in the NBA.
Well, I mean,
not even that stunk.
He can preach the NBA experience to his players, which I know that's kind of what he's gonna do. But in terms of Porter, I think he stays. I don't see any reason why. You talk about the best non-Power 5 school. Well, no, Gonzaga. I'm sorry. I keep forgetting they're in the WCC. Speaking of a team that needs to change conferences. But you have an elite, and I'm going to use this word with Loyola. They are an elite non-Power 5 team. They've proved, like, the first year back in 2018 was like, okay, this was maybe just one of these Cinderella runs. When they do it again, they're, especially with, I know Krutwig, I think, was one of the few players left from that tournament run, for the Final Four run in 2018. So
yeah,
Porter Moser, something special. He is something special, and why I just don't see. Unless a team comes in saying, we will pay you, you name the price and you'll be our coach.
Yeah.
And even then, money may not be important to him. I mean, that's another factor. And if it's not, we need more people like Porter Moser, because I don't see him leaving. He's built something special there. Why would he? I think he'd kind of be turning his back on the team as you get into this high level of success. I get that's kind of where we're going with mid-major coaches making the jump, but I just don't see a Porter Moser as that kind of guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's also an interesting point though, Zach, that you bring up with the comparison to Brad Stevens and Butler in that career trajectory. So it'd be interesting to see what, I don't see him leaving now, but it could be interesting to see in the future if this success continues, as he can make that path to the NBA and become
That's the only scenario
coach.
where I could see him like if an
in
NBA team comes calling, then we may have a different conversation.
That is a good point. Yash bringing that up like that, definitely. I mean that trumps anything there.
Yeah. Like NBA,
you get an instant coaching job.
Yeah. No,
but a different college team. Nah, I'd stay.
Yeah, stay in Chicago. And Will, you mentioned it when the bigger market, third biggest city in the country. You're going to get the media. You're going to get, when you're getting offensive lineman on your team like Cameron Krutwig, because the man is built like an offensive lineman.
You're not wrong.
See, if Moser went to the NBA, you just want a Brad Stevens, not a Fred.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. I do agree with you there. Fred Hoiberg, should have stayed at Iowa State, but we're like, well, I'll go to the Bulls, and then you see what happened there. Then he ended up in Cornhusker country, Nebraska. So
in exile.
They joined the elite company of going winless in conference.
Yeah.
Just to tell you how that's going.
Yeah. But he was the king of Ames, the king of Ames, I think was his nickname when he was at Iowa State. And then he just threw it all away by going to the NBA. But but that wasn't meant to rhyme there, but it did.
Sometimes it just works.
Yeah. But what's interesting is the last point I'll make here, since we are talking about IU and the Hoosiers there.
You mean the boo Hoosiers?
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's the sound coming from Bloomington as of late.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they had fans in the stands this year in the Big Ten?
Oh man, jeez. But they also with going after Holtman, they also went after Oral Roberts head coach Paul Mills. So that was also another interesting target name on their list before they went up with obviously, like Codey mentioned with the Booster story, Boosters probably had a part to play in the Woodson hiring, but they did.
What about the money?
They did go after Paul Mills of Oral Roberts and try to reach out to him as well. So IU was really fighting to reach out to different coaches, but like we've been saying, I think they rushed the hire there. Should have waited. Good thing they always say, good things come to those who wait. Now we'll see if this was a good decision. Who knows what Mike Woodson will bring in, and like Codey said, it's already started off on a wrong foot with 6 guys in the transfer portal. Trace Jackson Davis's future, in jeopardy there, whether he's going to stay or whether he's going to go to the NBA draft. But who knows?
That's not Mike Woodson's fault, though.
No, that's not Mike Woodson's fault, but it's
not getting off to a good start.
Yeah, it's not getting off to a good start when you're hiring a coach and 6-year guys already transferring and one guy's already trying to go to the NBA or thinking about going to the NBA. But we'll see how that pans out. I'm really excited to finish out these Elite 8 games now. Really excited. Looking forward to the Final Four next week. Hope we'll be able to recap the Final Four. We'll have the national championship game on the day we record, that Monday, I believe. So it'll be interesting, and really looking forward to that college basketball discussion next week as well. But we're going to switch over to the NBA a little bit, talk about the professional ranks of basketball, because the NBA has also had another week full of madness, if I may say. But before we get there, we want to let you know that you're listening to Beyond the Press Box with Yash Padi, Zach Kyleman, Codey Emerson, and Will Hatzel. Make sure to follow us and interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to listen to more great episodes. Subscribe to our podcast on Anchor FM, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. You can also listen to us on the Unhinged Sports Network. Just head over to unhingedsn.com to listen to us and check out other great podcasts that feature on the network. Before we get back to the show, we do want to let you know through our partnership with the Unhinged Sports Network, we've partnered with Fubotv. What is Fubotv, you may ask? Fubotv brings you 100 plus channels, including CBS, Fox, NBC, ESPN, and many more without the hassle of a cable contract. Don't believe me? Click the link in our social media bios and start your 7-day free trial today. We'll now return you to Beyond the Press Box. So, guys, I mentioned we're switching over to the NBA, the professional ranks, who's also had, like I mentioned, a week full of madness go about. And with the trade deadline on Thursday, the past Thursday, I just want to get your overall before we kind of dive deep. And I know, Will, you had put in our group text, you could have a 3-hour plus conversation about the NBA trade deadline and how the NBA is, the current state of the NBA. But I just want to get your overall thoughts here before we dive deep into dissecting the deadline.
Well, how about them Chicago Bulls? Well, I know I'll leave the
good.
Zach and Will are pretty darn excited about acquiring Nikola Vucevic, and we all thought the poor Bleacher Report, I'll say first off, because Bleacher Report, it was a bad timeline for them because they sent out a push notification or whatever on their app saying it would take a massive haul for the Orlando Magic to trade Nikola Vucevic. 15 minutes later, Orlando Magic trade Nikola Vucevic to Chicago Bulls. So Bleacher Report did not have great timing with the release of that. But I tell you what, Bulls can be scary. I mean, they got Zach LaVine, a tag team partner, who Nikola Vucevic has always been underrated. He just quietly averages like 20 and 10 for his career. He can also shoot it from three. He can, pick and pop, pick and roll. Whatever the heck you want him to do, he can do it. So it's going to take some pressure off of Zach LaVine to not be Zach LaVine's not going to feel like I have to go out here and score 30, 35 a night. Granted, I mean, guys like Kobe White and others are contributing as well. So, and we talked about it. Zach, I think you were the person who brought it up last week when we kind of talked about the trade deadline. Which one of these teams in the 4 through 10 range is going to make a move? Which team is going to do it? And sure enough, the Bulls said, you know what? We're going to be the team to do it. So look out for the Bulls. I'm really impressed with what they did. Switching to, poor Magic. I'll go to another player they dealt, who I'm high on the Vucevic trade, and I'm the other way on this one. The Aaron Gordon to the Denver Nuggets. I've never been a big Aaron Gordon guy. He was averaging, I think, 14 and 7 or 8 this year. He was you had Nikola Vucevic, Evan Fournier, Terrence Ross, and Aaron Gordon was the fourth option on that team. The Magic. Aaron Gordon was the fourth option. That says something about Aaron Gordon, if you ask me. I think the dude is a younger Blake Griffin, and by that, I mean, all he can really do is dunk and rebound. He can shoot it a little bit. But granted, I mean, he's a lot younger than Paul Millsap, who was their starting power forward. So you get younger if you're Denver. But where does this really I don't think in terms of the Western Conference, like power ranking standings, this makes them, they're not better than Utah. They're not better than any of the LA teams. Are they better than Portland? I don't know who got Norman Powell. Very underrated trade for Portland. So the Nuggets are basically still just stuck in the middle. And I don't think Aaron Gordon's going to make that big of an impact. I just don't. You'll look at some of the others. The Pacers, we're going to get into that in a second, or I will. Didn't make a trade, which they didn't need to. I'll address this one. Vic finally got his wish. He finally got his wish. Victor Oladipo getting traded to, this was basically a last second move to the Miami Heat. And by the way, can we talk about how Miami stole him they traded Houston, Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and I think a pick swap or something like that. And you get Victor Oladipo. Granted, Vic has been, I don't even know how to describe it. I think it's more mental with Vic more than anything. He's very, I guess, sensitive about his confidence. He uses all the time. I mean, he said in an interview in Houston, I think after one of his first games there, people keep giving up on me. And no one gave up on you in Indy. We literally embraced you as our own. So I'll say that. This will be Vic's. He started on the Magic, went to OKC, us, Houston, and now he's on the Heat. This is his 5th team in 4 years. Is the problem really the team? So look, Vic finally got where he wanted to go. We'll see how it ends up with Miami. I think that. And by the way, the timing of the trade couldn't be better because Miami Heat come to Banker's Life on Wednesday, the day this episode airs. So I think he'll get a not so pleasant welcome in the introductions from the fans. I personally hope he gets booed out of the building for kind of the way he's been as of late. But overall, the trade deadline, it was wacky. It was crazy. Had so many different trades. Those are 3 that I just thought of off the top of my head. And so, yeah, it's been, then we got the buyout market, obviously, which we're going to get into, but it was just crazy. I mean, so we'll see how these moves, everyone hopes that these moves can pan out for their teams, but usually there's the one handful of teams are like, we probably shouldn't have done this. So I think it'll be interesting to see which those teams are, and we'll find that out here soon.
Yeah, wait, Codey, did you mention
the best time of the year?
Codey, did you mention the easy way out market or the buyout market? I'm sorry, both of those names kind of sit.
I'm giving up on this team market.
Yeah, and and then we have some individual that thinks he's the MVP. Meanwhile, he plays on a team with 7 other MVP and superstar/former superstar players. But I'll hold my thoughts on that. Overall impressions of the trade deadline, awesome. I mean, this has probably been one of the better trade deadlines in a while, and I'm not just saying that with bias, because finally the Bulls made a good trade in a long time to where they actually acquired legit talent to move them forward. I felt like for the last 5-6 years, probably since 2015 when they traded Derrick Rose, that's the start of just all we're doing is selling off players and trying to acquire like these young guys and some prospects and things like that. And it's just, it really is, it was more of just selling off to get into that rebuild state. This was the first trade essentially in a very long time that got the Bulls to go forward again, which is great. And, I'll hold my thoughts because I know we're going to break it down a little bit more individual here in a few minutes. So just as an overall, I mean, I thought it was a really cool deadline because, okay, did a James Harden-esque, Kevin Durant-esque player get moved? No, I think probably honestly, I think the biggest name was Vucevic. I mean, for as big as a big of a name Oladipo was and all the speculation on where he was going to go, I mean, I think the only other guy that would have surpassed, like Oladipo or Vucevic would have been like if Bradley Beal got traded, who the poor guy was probably hoping they were going to trade him. But regardless, I mean, you saw a lot of movement that is going to make things quite interesting, especially the rest of the way here as we've talked about this before. This year the standings are wild where every team you literally could win 2 games in a row and you're going to shoot up 3 spots in the standings, or vice versa. You lose 2 or 3 games, you're going down 2 or 3 spots. So, I mean, I'm with you, Cody, on the whole thing about Aaron Gordon. Like, I think some people are overhyping that trade a bit, but Aaron Gordon and Gary Clark, their talent, or especially at least Aaron Gordon, I know more about him, and I think it's fair to say that even though he's not a superstar-esque player, he's a great athlete. I mean, he's going to provide a spark to that team and add another weapon, to the surplus of weapons and ways they can score and attack with their offense. Is he a game changer? Probably not, but I don't think I think the only guy that's a game changer was Vucevic or perhaps Victor Oladipo. So I think they did what they could do best.
You mentioned the Bradley Beal. You mentioned Bradley Beal and the Wizards there. Will, you know who was looking to who the Wizards were looking to get in the trade deadline, don't you?
No, I don't think so.
They were reportedly in talks with the Bulls to get Lowry Markkanen.
Oh yeah, true. Okay, yeah, there was some speculation. Yeah, I mean that would have been cool to get Bradley Beal, but I don't know what you're doing with both Levine and Beal, but that would have been amazing to figure out. I mean, if you somehow acquired him, you figure it out. You tell Zach, you know what, you're gonna play point guard. Screw it, okay, And there were some thoughts about that too, about maybe Kobe White getting traded, to acquire like Lonzo Ball. I mean, I'm very surprised Lonzo Ball didn't get traded. Apparently, his agent came out and said that, yeah, it's okay, but at the end of this year, Lonzo's probably going to look for a way out of his current situation. So we'll have to see what happens there. Like I said, I'll hold off my thoughts on the Bulls here for the most part, but I mean, a lot of moves were made to make the second half of the NBA season really interesting because, yeah, I'm just going to say it, the Heat are going to have a better chance of making the playoffs and rising through the standings with Oladipo now. I don't know. That makes them the best contender out there. I'm kind of not high. I'm just not high on Miami this year. The Bulls, not high on them being a contender, but I think with Vucevic, they should make the playoffs. There's the expectations should be making the playoffs at this point for that kind of a trade. And same with the Nuggets. I think Aaron Gordon and Gary Clark make them an even stronger competitive team. I mean, yeah, there's some other moves that were made. I don't really necessarily think that bringing in Rondo is going to be a game-changing situation for the Clippers. Lou Williams going to the Hawks, I guess some reliable veteran experience helps. Norman Powell going to the Trailblazers, that gives them, I think, some much-needed depth at the guard position. You had a couple of other guys getting traded here and there, as just basically some bench mob-esque type of guys. JJ Redick to the Mavs, I actually really like that. I think that would, to see Luka out there with Redick, I think that will be fun to see. But yeah, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, guys. And Zach, maybe you feel the same way, but the Bulls might have won the trade deadline. I think so.
I mean, I would say on paper they definitely pull it off that way. I mean, yeah, Nikola Vucevic definitely is the star piece from this trade deadline. I mean, a career year, second All-Star season this year, someone that as he ages just seems to consistently get better as he goes. And they get him for one, if not 2 more years based on the contract that they have with him. So, they get to build around an all-star talent, 2 of them now, if you will, in Chicago, with Zach LaVine being in his prime as well. And they have at least a core that they can move in the direction moving for the next few years and realize what they want to do, which is more short-term success with eventually figuring out what you do at the back end is how they've decided. Now, it's unfortunate the Bulls have to deal with the second toughest schedule in the NBA to end the year, which they've already been punched around now for 3 straight losses. So you hope they get that together sooner rather than later, because that would, in my opinion, I think Vucevic is the piece that helps them At least do they want to get over that hump, or at least not just be hanging on for dear life at the 10th seed and then having to fight your way in? Then yeah, that's exactly what this did. And again, it gives the Bulls direction, because a lot of this uncertainty for the end of the season was, okay, what's going to happen with a lot of these pieces? You know, like Wendell Carter. We knew Otto Porter was going to be one way or another. He's gone after this year. So the fact that they did something with that, with Otto Porter and his contract, I think that was pretty smart on the Bulls, that they were able to dump that off along with Wendell Carter, who, you know, you wish you think he can have some more potential, but the inconsistency just kills you, and you had to figure out what to do there. So they pick up a stable 2-time, possibly more time All-Star into the future. And it definitely looks adding on, of course, Daniel Theis to this too. It's pretty solid gets for the Bulls. I'm looking forward to what the potential is, even with this schedule being the way it is. I'm going to actually point out on the people I was kind of curious. I was like, man, I wish they would have gotten traded, because that would have also knocked some stuff out. Because, yeah, we talked about Bradley Beal, but the other big one that was more likely to go was Kyle Lowry. I was wondering where he was going to head. I thought, you know, if Miami is going on this whole trade rampage, trying to upgrade quick to keep up the heat, if you will, on their chances to go back-to-back for Eastern Conference Finals at the very least, you know, Lowry could have been one of those pickups. So, yeah, it definitely, that was one I think that was a little unfortunate. You know, Bradley Beal, we still wonder, but I think he's just settled in. Otherwise, I was just mostly entertained at saying thanks to the Orlando Magic for making their dismantling the best way possible for us viewers, because I think we knew it was going to happen. They kind of maxed out their possibilities with that roster after they got a 7th seed. But you know, it was probably time for them to split those pieces together and hit the reset button. And again, they did it in the most entertaining way possible, sans Terrence Ross still being there and, you know, giving us all these sad tweets on Twitter for you to watch as he's seeing Aaron Gordon and Nikola Vucevic go to the wayside. But they have a young core to build around, so definitely looking forward to what they have in the future. But yeah, I mean, the Bulls, definitely. I would say that if, in terms of what is splash plays, they definitely won at least the trade deadline, and they have direction now. I think that's the best thing that you can say for them too. Really, and I liked Will bring up JJ Redick for the sneaky pick. The Mavs need a little bit of extra oomph, if you will, if they're going to fight into the West. But if we're talking like the West, or like even more of the big boys in the playoffs, the buyout market was even more interesting, I'd say, than even even some of the points in the trade deadline, which is kind of surprising considering the trade deadline was quite special this year.
Yeah, I mean, the buyout market, or like Will mentioned, the easy way out market there, you know, really had a big impact this year, as well as did the trade deadline. But you know, we've been talking about the Bulls a little bit. Want to continue talking about these Chicago Bulls here. And like you mentioned, you get Vucevic from Orlando. You know, you trade for Mo Wagner. You send Mo Wagner to Boston for Daniel Theis, which, another fun fact, I'll load it with the fun facts today. Mo Wagner's brother, Franz Wagner, plays for Michigan. So he's currently in the NCAA tournament. So just a little fun fact there for you. But when you look at you know, how the addition of these big men, Vucevic and Theis, how does that affect Lauri Markkanen as a whole? Lauri Markkanen, Levine, and this starting lineup for Chicago.
I'm glad you asked, because ironically enough, I actually had this thought roll around in my head shortly, you know, the day the trade happened. A few hours later, I'm like, you know what? We have Markkanen. What does this mean? You know, as I'm trying to envision who's left on the team, you know, compared with the new additions, put them together, what do you have? That's the whole point. And that's why, as much as I could point fun at, you know, the buyout market stuff in terms of, you know, the Lakers and the Nets, especially the Nets stocking up on players. If you think of it this way, the more talent you have, the surplus of players you have, it opens up the game and the floor for somebody else. You know, you look at the Bulls now. Before this trade, it was Zach LaVine, Zach LaVine, Zach LaVine, Zach LaVine. Now it's Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic, and now you get an opportunity to, okay, so the defense is always going to be game planned around Zach LaVine scoring, and then of course Vucevic, dominating the paint. What does that do for a guy like Lowry Markkanen, a power forward who is more of an offensive guy, a shooter for that instance, and also not bad with rebounds on occasions too? That gives him an opportunity to maybe back away from the paint and get back out on that 3-point line and be at the 3-point arc and be able to do what we saw him do his first couple of years in the NBA when he was a rookie. I mean, he came out of the show being a 3-point shooter and being legit at shooting from all areas of the court. I want to see that again. I mean, the biggest thing with him is I always say, like, can you be healthy? I mean, I love the Vucevic trade because I think it is going to be interesting to see how Vucevic and Markkanen could line up in the front court, how they could handle this. But also, you got rid of some, like Zach said, okay, Wendell Carter. You'd like to think there's more potential there. There probably is, but it's not healthy. Otto Porter Jr., when he played this year, was actually a solid piece for the Bulls, but wasn't healthy for half this season. Wendell Carter, out of the 44 games the Bulls have played, Wendell Carter appeared in 32. Otto Porter appeared in 25. If you're not going to make an impact, and if you're not going to stay healthy and actually play and have a chance to make an impact, you're gone. That's what this trade showed me on the thought process of the new regime. They want to be competitive. They want to make this a winning organization again. And I love it because you got a winning player in Vucevic who maybe hasn't really won that much, but not his fault. He plays for the Orlando Magic. Let's just face it. The guy was kind of out there balling by himself. I know they had Aaron Gordon. I know we're talking about some of the other guys they traded. They have a lot of good accessory pieces, but Vucevic, that was the fundamental piece, I think, of that franchise, even more so than Aaron Gordon, even though he was Mr. Popular because of the dunk contest stuff. So, and I know I'm veering off of Lowry Markkanen. I'm just saying, like, this trade will help him. I think this trade helps Coby White because I think it helps Zach LaVine. This trade helps everybody because now you're going to be able to spread the floor more. You can't double team Zach LaVine anymore because then you got to find a way to put two bodies on Vucevic in the paint. You put two bodies on Vucevic in the paint and he's boxing out. Well, that's going to leave Lowry Markkanen with an opportunity to roam around to find a spot to take a shot, or he goes in and grabs a rebound or something. So I'm praying that Lowry Markkanen could stay healthy for the rest of the season because I want to see just what this lineup could do. I actually really loved what's his name? Daniel Gafford. But again, the guy just never translated into a solid NBA player. Luke Cornett, he's just playing basketball when he can. Okay, I mean, there's nothing really to say about Luke Cornett. The Bulls really threw out the garbage essentially. And I don't mean to sound insulting here, but they got rid of the guys that were a waste of time or overpaid or just weren't making the impact, and they brought in a couple of other and the other guys that came in too, some of these more supporting cast guys. They got some better center depth with the guy they got from the Celtics. Some of these other guys, I mean, I don't know if they're going to necessarily be better than Gafford and Luke Cornett and whatnot. We'll see, but I'm willing to see what a new look bench mob could do, because let's face it, the guys they got rid of, minor impact at best was made. And if you're not healthy, if you're not playing and making an impact and being consistent, you got to move on eventually. If not, you're going to be in this never-ending current state of what the Bulls are in, and that's in a rebuild. So Vucevic helps them take that next step forward, and maybe when they finally have money, and I know they have a little bit of money, I don't know if they could be big spenders in free agency this upcoming summer. I know they have to pay Zach LaVine again too. LaVine stated he wants to stay now, so boom, you have LaVine and Vucevic. And you see what Markkanen could do, see if Coby White can continue to develop, and maybe you go get Lonzo Ball. Maybe you could sign a couple of decent free agents, like higher quality free agents, and the Bulls maybe hit the ground running next year, and they're a solid East contender right away next year. I mean, that's how good this trade was and how important it was for the organization, because it boosts the team as a whole, and I can't wait to see. I know the Bulls got their butts kicked really bad against the Spurs. This is the first game with the new look team. I'm not going to freak out just yet, but this was such a huge move for the future, the long-term and short-term vision of this franchise.
Well, that's and Zach, I know you guys have voiced your frustration with the Bears front office, but you got to give credit to the Bulls front office and what they've done in bringing these pieces to Chicago, and potentially, like you said, with Lonzo Ball's agent saying he's going to try to look for a new situation, potentially bringing in Lonzo as well to the Windy City in the future.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta give I give a pat on the back and a few golf claps. Well, probably some grand applause to Arturas Karnisovas there in Chicago for getting this trade done. And again, moving the pieces that I stated have been either inconsistent or just a big wad of cash being wasted, in my opinion. I mean, Otto Porter at one point was, I think, worth that contract, but I cannot stress enough how much you just feel like you are wasting your money with a guy that really has been injury prone and has not lived up to the dream. Now, hey, I wish him the best. I don't wish ill will on the guy. I'm just saying that for the contract the Bulls inherited in that trade and for what came out of it, it never amounted to what they wanted. He never was that star max deal guy that the Bulls wanted. He was more of a grab and shoot up 3-point jump shotter, if you will. And, just to I would say more of a serviceable, maybe like NBA sixth man is probably a better way to put him rather than someone that should be out on the floor consistently starting at this point in his career. For the Bulls though, look, Vucevic, Tice, these are pickups for the Bulls that, dear God, they need defense so bad. This is a team that leaks points consistently. And even if Vucevic is more of an offensive scorer, I would say his defensive presence still is there. Tice is definitely a defensive centric center. So you're going to get a role player that has some proven track record in Boston for being that type of role player that can be fit in and come off the bench and give you what they need to hold down the fort while you're getting your starters some rest. I'm just saying the Bulls really needed some defensive presence. And of course, as Will's talking, Zach LaVine can't do it all. I mean, the guy's having a just outstanding season, and the Bulls need to right away. It's the first day that they are either eliminated or that I hate to even say if they don't qualify for the playoffs. I think they will. They'll get in the play-in tournament either way. But whatever day that is that they are not part of the playoffs anymore come later this summer, that better be your first assignment, is to get LaVine a contract. And then once that contract's out of the way, start working some chemistry with Nikola Vucevic as well while you're on the floor and see what you can do to work with Coby White getting some better defense. Because like I said, Coby White's has improved year in, year out now, at least, I'm sorry, year over year is what I meant to say. But they need defense. These trades alone should help with their defensive presence. I think they're more impactful for next year at this point. I think the Bulls just want to get into the playoffs any way they can to help start into next season where you can get fans, which are, I would say, fan confidence is definitely higher than it has been in recent memory. This definitely helps, and this definitely helps for the sake of the Reinsdorf family to get some ticket sales, if you will. But man, this is a near future move that I am more enticed for next year, even with in terms of, okay, get through the second toughest schedule you have in the NBA, if you can get in the play-in tournament and then work in the offseason with Billy Donovan, now that you know your direction, and see where you go with that. And as well as bringing up, they won't have maybe the biggest amount of cash to throw around, but they can get some free agents that'll be some good guys saying, hey, Chicago's got a respectable core now. We don't have to worry about the inconsistency of the front office or the coaching. Billy Donovan's already proven that he's one of the best when it comes to taking what he's got and maximizing that capability. Adding in the Karnisovas is kind of being, I would say, aggressive, if you will, in trying to get this franchise back to relevance. I'd say this is an excellent move all around. But defensively, this is definitely what the Bulls needed. They need some sort of juice there, and it's not the complete solution. But moving into the offseason, if that's part of the direction is to, okay, we got the scores, now let's lock down and get back to those like Tom Thibodeau days of like just being one of the best ball dominant teams in terms of shutting it down on the end of the court, that should be your focus. And I think this was a great start at that. Yeah.
I mean, like you mentioned, that defensive point of the ball, the Bulls really getting some help with these big men and really taking some of the load off of Lowry Markkanen's shoulders as well with the Bulls. But Jerry Reinsdorf, excuse me, where have I heard that name? Oh yeah, the Last Dance. Yes. When I was watching that last year, I know he hasn't had the best, reputation around Chicago, but hopefully now with these trades and with what Carnosaurus is doing out there in Chicago, that'll change overall. But another trade I think we missed when we were talking about the overall trade deadline, Andre Drummond, who will be heading to the Lakers. And then LaMarcus Aldridge is also signing with the Nets. So this is kind of a two-part question. How does Andre Drummond's signing with the Lakers impact their chances to go back-to-back? And what is the impact of LaMarcus Aldridge's signing with the Nets? What are their chances? How do you think their chances fare of making it to the finals this year, potentially winning an NBA Finals?
When you're at the top, you just keep on adding on. That's just how I'm seeing it. Or the NBA more and more often anymore. If you got a bunch of stars on one of those teams, and I get it, if you're a player and you're like, I want to go play with those guys. That seems like a lot of fun going play with a lot of talent over there. All right, here we go. So, Andre Drummond going to LA, I think it's just a pursuit to sustain your relevance right now in the West. Because honestly, I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to doubt a LeBron James team in the playoffs. And I'm not saying that, like, say, the Phoenix Suns, who, I mean, Jesus, you want to talk about a team that is overperforming more than we even thought that was going to be for this year. You're really competing with the Clippers and the Jazz at this point, I would say. More so the Jazz, less so the Clippers, if I'm being honest. Yeah, that's right. I thought I've confused those words for some reason. But no, the Jazz are definitely who you're trying to keep up. They have they locked down their best players last year, and they're reaping the rewards right now of keeping that chemistry together after having 2 straight years of consistent success and working with each other. And of course, the development of Donovan Mitchell keeps progressing every season. So obviously, what do? You are in the most competitive conference in the NBA, easily, by far. There's no question about it. There's 5 teams that right now are probably vying most likely to be one of the 2 in the Western Conference right now, so far for the finals, that is. So you go for Drummond, who easily locks down your defense in a high flying scoring Western Conference, which, I mean, honestly, Drummond's defensive presence has never been questioned. We all know that. I bet Yash definitely knows that, seeing him in Cleveland. And of course, us as Bulls fans and Cleveland fans know that from his days in Detroit.
Yeah.
You want to talk about lockdown defense as a big man, traditional big man that is making it work in a modern day NBA. That's Andre Drummond. And honestly, it's just another weapon that, with LeBron James converting to this point guard-esque style player anymore, it's just, imagine the lob situations. Imagine what you can have inside now with LeBron James having just another weapon to throw to at any given time.
Lakers can be the new Lob City.
Exactly. And then LeBron's still going to be out for a bit of time, but even then, it's not going to be that long. They'll have Drummond at least used to what's going on in LA at that point, to where when it comes to a playoff push and LeBron's back healthy, they're going to be as dangerous as ever. Not to mention you have Anthony Davis, so you have just tall towers of men in the inside for LA. It just adds on to the weapons, and it maybe pushes LA back up to the conversation of, okay, they might be sitting lower in the West, but honestly, they still are probably low-key the best team in the West now when you add Drummond back into that mix. And for LaMarcus Aldridge, look, I think it's just more competition. Guys on the back end of his career, he adds another star name to the Nets. So you want to make the Eastern Conference version of like any Western Conference team in the last 5 years. There's the Brooklyn Nets for you. That's all I got to say there. I mean, Aldridge, I think, is just going to a place where he can get some success and maybe have a high chance of winning a ring again. So I would say, if anything, adds a good role play, adds another versatile big man, if you will, and someone that I think will just make the Nets that much more dangerous as they're chasing a 76ers team that's trying to continue to keep up as that number 1 seed. But yeah, I mean, they're just continuing to maintain the course of most likely being in the Eastern Conference Finals between either the Bucks or the 76ers, honestly.
Yeah, you know what? Let me throw out the LaMarcus Aldridge thoughts here first, because I there's less to say, I think, compared to Drummond. Aldridge, good for him personally or individually because I know he's nearing the end of the road for his career. He's unfortunately not the same player he was back in his days with Portland, or at least even his early days with the Spurs, because a couple of years ago he was still a balling out, but he's kind of a shell of his former self right now. But I mean, look, yeah, he's probably trying to go for that ring, before he hangs it up, and that's okay. I do respect that. And at this point, I think as much as I roll my eyes at the buyout moves by Brooklyn, it makes sense for guys like Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge to come to a team like the Nets, because at this point in their careers, they fit the supporting cast role more than like that star power starting five type of guys, and that's okay. I mean, Blake Griffin, in the couple of games he's played so far, I mean, he's 9 points a game doesn't sound real thrilling. But, if you're going to get a couple of points from him here and there, if he could snag some rebounds, when you're putting that on top of what you're getting from DeAndre Jordan, Joe Harris, and I didn't even mention the big names yet: Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden. I mean, you may only get 10 points a game from Griffin and Aldridge a night, but essentially that's kind of what they were averaging with bigger minutes and starters minutes with their previous teams. So Aldridge, I think at this point he's accepting where he is in his career, and he's just going to go chase a ring and play that supporting cast role, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, a lot of guys make their living on that. They go from team to team. They're part of that bench mob and whatnot. And the Bulls used to really appreciate their bench mob back in the Derrick Rose, Carlos Boozer, Luol Deng days. So, I could say that, yeah, having a bench is important, and depth is going to be so key, especially with injuries and things like that. And especially since Kevin Durant's always out, James Harden and Kyrie have, they've had their issues too, or they're, playing issues. But at the end of the day, I think it's still a solid move in terms of Drummond. Now, again, in years past, I would roll my eyes when I heard, oh, LeBron James has another well-known name on his team. They actually need it, with James being hurt, with Anthony Davis still being hurt. You need a guy to come in here and help in your front court. And also, mind you, okay, LeBron James and Anthony Davis both averaging around 8 rebounds a game. You know who could replace those rebounds? Both of those guys. That's 16 rebounds in a game just from those two players alone, average wise. Hey, Andre Drummond could do that by himself. This guy could get 10 to 15 rebounds. We've seen him grab 20 boards on occasions. So this is one of those scenarios where it's like, yeah, the Lakers need this, because you have Davis, who may rest up until needed for playoffs. LeBron, they should be careful with him. I mean, you don't need to force anything, because, okay, again, at this point, as the Lakers, you're playing for the playoffs. The regular season, even the seeding, I don't think they really care about this year. They're probably not going to be the 1 seed. So be it. Not the end of the world. You got LeBron James, the guy that's been in almost every finals for the past decade. So I think Andre Drummond not only can provide some offense, but I think it's huge just how he could battle in the paint, and get boards. But I think don't underestimate his offense either. This guy's been consistently averaging 17 points a game. For the last couple of years, he was doing that in Cleveland, 17 points a game, 13 rebounds a game. Those numbers could change as again, more of a supporting cast role. But, if Anthony Davis is going to miss some time, you could see Andre Drummond, in that starting lineup, or, he's going to get a good chunk of minutes if LeBron and Anthony Davis are hurt and are going to be, on minutes restrictions, things like that. But whatever happens the next couple of weeks, I think Andre Drummond is a very solid signing for the Lakers, and also a much needed signing. So I love it. I've actually been quietly a fan of Andre Drummond for some time. If the Bulls didn't get Vucevic, I would have been fine if they would have went after him on the buyout market, because again, fills a role that the Bulls needed. That's rebounding and defense.
The amount of defense Drummond would provide, I almost would argue, I love Vucevic, by the way, but man, if they would have landed Drummond, I actually probably would have feel the exact same way as I do about Nikola Vucevic being on that roster just for the defensive presence. And man, Drummond is the main reason I still believe that the traditional big man can exist in the NBA and can be successful. It just
And
it
actually, that
proves
was on the list of things I saw. Well, before the trade deadline, that NBC Chicago had put out there that the Bulls should consider buying out Drummond's contract. Was one of the things that they had listed on there. So yeah, I mean it was on the Bulls trade deadline on the Bulls agenda there overall. So yeah. But Cody, you your thoughts on Drummond and Aldridge?
Well, I think Drummond is going to make a bigger impact than Aldridge. Although uh, this is an interesting point to bring up about Aldridge. He's 35. Two, he was only averaging 12 points on a Spurs team, which the Spurs they're kind of in the middle. They're not great, but they're not terrible. And you would have thought a guy like Aldridge would have kind of been leading the way. Did he? I was reading this. Did he play bad or not up to where people thought on purpose, just so he would get bought out? That's a rumor that's been going around. It's obviously Aldridge will never come out and say that, but it's something to maybe. It's just talk like us. We'll speculate about it, but I don't anticipate him making that much of an impact. I really don't. It's a nice signing. Honestly, I'd rather have DeAndre Jordan out there still. DeAndre Jordan's a better defender. He, granted, offensively, which if you're the Nets, you don't need more offense. You need more defense, which DeAndre Jordan can provide. He's a good rim protector, rebounder. You kind of need that with guys like Codey, Harden, and Kyrie out there. Will Blake Griffin, will they go with, the big three of Kyrie, Harden, and Codey, then Blake Griffin and Aldridge? Or will they go DeAndre Jordan, LaMarcus Aldridge? Will they go, Blake and DeAndre Jordan? Who knows what they're going to come up with? Steve Nash definitely can mix and match to see what the other team does per se. But I just at the end of the day, I honestly thought he was going to go to Miami. That's where everyone thought he was going to go. And then he ends up signing with Brooklyn. So I don't think he has that much left in the tank in his career, but hey, like Zach, you brought it up. He's going to go there to win a ring, or potentially win a ring. So then I think the bigger impact is, like I started with Drummond. Drummond is 28 years old, still in the prime of his career. And that's a scary thing to think about, really. He probably on the tail end of it a little bit, but he can still get you 20 and 20 on any given night. He doesn't have really much of a jump shot, but hey, he's improved. You may look at the numbers, and I'm going to be honest, I can't tell you exactly what he's shooting from the line right now, but good God, I know it's an improvement over what he was earlier in his career. My God, the dude was shooting almost like 30 to 40% from the line. It's like it's like Shaq, he wasn't even trying. I think he's up near 65%, which that's respectable. It's not where you want it to be, but hey, it's an improvement. And the Lakers talk about the ability on the front line. Anthony Davis, you have the Morris twins. You still have Marc Gasol, who people tend to forget about. He hasn't played well this year, so that's probably why. You still have like Drummond, LeBron, Kuzma, so he can mix and match there as well. But I think the Lakers, in terms of who would you say got the better player, I think Drummond would be the better signing, because they need that. The Lakers kind of need that rock, pick and roll type guy who can just absolutely crash the glass. You're not keeping Andre Drummond off the rebounds. That's what that man does. He won't be relied on when Anthony Davis and LeBron come back. He won't be relied on to score, but heck, he can. He could say, Yash, you brought up, he can maybe catch some lobs from LeBron. So I still, after this, people are already crowning the Nets champs and stuff like that. I like the Lakers better still. I know that's a debate we can have for another day, kind of comparing rosters and whatnot. But I still like the Lakers. You and a healthy AD and LeBron. The Lakers could get the 8 seed and still make it to the finals. They genuinely do not care. If what seed they get, they know they'll probably be the favorites. Granted, it's gonna be a tough road. Utah playing out of their minds, Clippers playing out of their minds. The Nets will probably have the easier path, but the Lakers can still get it done. So both teams, Drummond's trying to win a ring. Aldridge is trying to win a ring. And who knows? If everyone gets the championship match that we all think, and it's looking like it could be Lakers Nets, one of those guys could get their wish. I couldn't tell you who it would be, but you never know. It'll be fun to kind of see how that plays out.
When does LeBron care about seeding?
Oh no. But yeah, no, I if that series comes about, it'll be interesting because I know LeBron, he has especially after Kyrie made the diss at LeBron, saying after they got KD, saying, "Oh, I finally have a shooter now." It's gonna, I think if that series happens, there's the I took it personally meme that Michael Jordan used in the in that Last Dance documentary when they were showing him before games, and his cutting to his interviews of him saying, "Oh yeah, I took that little slight personally." So there's the little personal story behind if the Lakers and the Nets end up, or the motivation for LeBron, if the Lakers and the Nets meet up in the NBA finals. But yeah, I think, like you said, Drummond was the overall better signing. Drummond is gonna make the bigger impact. He came out and said, "Oh, I'm here to help in any way I can." So really, he's not there to. He's not, he's not going to be disruptive. He's there to help the team. Really, that's really encouraging for teammates, for coaches. You don't want to have a guy going in there with that's going to be disruptive or going to be a problem. That's really nice to see. And Aldridge, like you said, Aldridge on the tail end of his career a little bit, just now in win now mode, wants to win that title again. That's it seems like all the like Zach, like you mentioned, another the rich get richer, and they just keep getting richer.
That's how it is. You get those stars, and the stars all want to kind of go and magnetize over to the other stars.
So. Yeah, weren't some of these players criticizing the super teams, and now all of a sudden look what they have. Super team in Brooklyn.
Once the ring's involved.
Yeah. I remember they came out. My last point here. I remember after the Nets, they signed Blake Griffin. They're got LaMarcus Aldridge. There's an article the other day came out, and all it had was a screenshot of Kevin Durant 10 years ago when he tweeted. He's like, all these guys forming super teams, like the NBA is becoming, the very.
He's done it twice now.
And I'm like, dude, you've been on 2 super teams now. Like, it's such a hypocritical tweet,
He's done it twice.
Yeah. So, we're
talking about this on a future episode.
Yeah. What's the
conversation? Competition?
How much change? How change can occur in 10 years? Everything just
flips. No. The NBA has a competition problem. Not how it's changed. It has changed, but.
Yeah. Get a hard cap.
Yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, we'll touch on that on a separate episode, because I know we can go on and on about the changes and the problems within the NBA. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for this edition of Beyond the Press Box. We want to thank you for listening to Beyond the Press Box. To stay up to date on content, to even join the debate, like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search Beyond the Press Box and look for our cool red logo. To listen to more great episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. We're also a proud member of the Unhinged Sports Network, so make sure to head to unhingedsn.com to listen to our podcast, as well as many other great podcasts on the network. But with that being said, we want to thank you for tuning in, and we want to wish you a great rest of your night.